Good afternoon. Welcome back again to a special presentation of some firearms-related issues produced by the, we're in connection with the American Guns and Glory Network, produced by Rigel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. My name is Don Green. I'm an attorney licensed in California and Nevada, nearly 40 years, 39 years as I've been practicing law, with a substantial emphasis of my practice being firearms-related litigation, defending people charged with firearms, negligent discharge, murder, testimony before committees, testimony before the Nevada Judiciary and Assembly committees on firearms regulations in Nevada, and being involved in litigation in California on the assault weapon ban and the magazine ban. So we've got a pretty varied experience. Today on this news alert, I have with me, again, Miss Maggie Mordaunt of HPP, Homeland
Personal Protection,
HPPtraining.com. And you'll see Ms. Mordaunt's contact information, and well qualified, in not only an instructor, but also an expert on self-defense. And again, for our listeners and our viewing audience, can you describe a little bit about your background and what is it that you do at Homeland Personal Protection?
So we are a firearms training company. We teach defense. We teach new shooters, advanced shooters, training law enforcement, military, and civilians. We teach the NRA platform, the National Rifle Association platform, the United States Concealed Carry Association platform as well, and then also more advanced ICE training, the Intuitive Defensive Shooting Program. So I'm a certified instructor through all those different platforms, as well as a training counselor for the NRA and USCCA. So we're teaching a lot of defense training here in Las Vegas and Henderson.
And without saying what you actually did on this hush-hush programs which you have with the government, is it true that you're also consulting with the several branches of the government?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We won't go any further on that. This is a news alert because some of the subject we are bringing up in the next few minutes are of critical importance to our viewers and listeners in California, and of especially critical importance for our viewers in Nevada. On September 26th of 2022, a new federal law will go into effect. And this law, in sum and substance, mandates that federal firearms dealers must report a denial of a firearms application on the form 4473. That's the ATF form. Let me repeat that. On September 26, 2022, this law becomes effective. And the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has issued directives that all federal firearms licensees it's mandatory, must report denials of firearms in NIC tests. And of course, the NIC test is run by the FBI, and its center is in Clarksburg, West Virginia. The law becomes effective on September 26, 2022. Now, the reporting requirement is mandatory. There are no exceptions. They cannot say, oh, it's my buddy, I'm not going to report it. Now, the rationale from the government and the ATF is that they're now going to be looking at those persons who cannot get firearms, who are getting denials, not the delays, the denials, because these people, by operation of law, under federal law and Nevada and California law, these people cannot own firearms for the various reasons which are stated in Section 922G of Title 18 of the United States Code and various laws in California and Nevada. So, Maggie, please tell us, in your estimation, have you had situations in your training courses where you have people who actually should not be there and are training with firearms?
So, the only reason I feel that they shouldn't be training with firearms is because, to their own admission in court, in the classroom, we have the saying that I've heard many times in court, "Thou doth protest too much." Students saying, "Well, I smoke marijuana. It's legal in the state of Nevada," and they show up with firearms, and I'm like, "Well, we don't need to know about that. You don't need to." protest that to us, but unfortunately, we're going to have to ask you to leave the classroom because now I'm an accessory to this person who just admitted to the entire classroom that they smoked marijuana and they showed up with guns. I'm just like, you're going to have to leave. I can't prove that they did because, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a police officer, so I can't say I'm going to arrest you. I just tell them you need to leave.
So these laws here on the reporting of the denial of a firearm are probably not going to affect many of your students who are there for legitimate reasons. In my practice, I see it quite often. Well, I had a felony 20 years ago, and there are some websites out there. Now, I don't know who's producing them, and they say, oh, the felony goes away. It does not go away. I had it at a gun show earlier this year, a guy who got a joyriding case in 1949 when he was 19 years old, the same age as my mother. My mother is just turned 90, and it showed up, although he had bought weapons before, but the ATF and the FBI are constantly updating their databases for these people who've got these particular types of situations. So, and there are no exceptions to this. So we wanted to emphasize that point to our viewers and our listening audience. To those people who know people, they can't have firearms. Most of our listeners are firearms eligible, but it's good to know this if you know somebody or they try to buy a firearm from you or they're trying to get a firearm and use you. NO spells no.
Straw purchase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that straw purchase is now part of, exactly, thank you. That's part of the rationale in this statute, and they're going to prosecute the straw purchaser and the person trying to get the firearm. And I've been telling people for years that they're going to try to use this as one means of gun control. And that's legitimate gun control because it has a reasonable basis to support the rationale to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have weapons. May we have the next slide, please? There are some significant changes in Nevada's CCW reciprocity. Fortunately, Nevada has, at least our legislature and the Nevada Department of Public Safety, has seen fit to add a few more states which were previously taken out, notably Florida. Effective on July 2nd or July 1st of 2022, we have a new reciprocity chart which is published by the Legislative Council Bureau. It's on the website for the Nevada Department of Public Safety, and you'll see it in front of you. Now, this is what's significant. If any of you have gone to the gun show and you've been to our booths there, you will see that we give away these cards, with, of course, our contact information on the back. But this year, in response to many requests by firearms dealers, by training people, myself, the Nevada Department of Public Safety has placed this statute, Nevada Revised Statute 202.3688, on that website to make the following point absolutely clear. If you are a Nevada resident and you hold a CCW from another state, before you can carry in Nevada, you must have a CCW issued by the state of Nevada. And Maggie, can you expand on that, please?
Yes. So when students show up, we let them know, even though they moved from another state, they have a CCW from their state, they can carry in the state of Nevada for up to 60 days. I feel that if someone's going to move here, they should put in that time to get their CCW process, take the class. It can take up to 120 days to get your CCW back in the mail. So they need to do their due diligence. They need to find a good class and get that paperwork done. And you can use your CCW for 60 days so long as we reciprocate with that state. And so once you become a resident here in the state of Nevada, you must, as a resident, have a Nevada state CCW. There was a lot of people going around still carrying with another state CCW and thinking they were in compliance, but really they weren't. And unfortunately, not a lot of instructors were telling people that. And they just thought, it's the due diligence of the individual who's deciding to get that CCW, and they thought, well, they would know it because it's really up to the responsibility of the student to know that information. But as instructors, I think it's important for us to let our students know as much as possible to keep them compliant.
And I have had situations where people come up to me and say, well, Mr. X over there is teaching a class from Wisconsin or whatever. And he is saying that because, Wisconsin is authorized to, or at least you can carry with the Wisconsin CCW for less than the 60 days. That's it, because you become a Nevada resident. You're okay. You don't have to have a Nevada CCW. And they're saying, well, that's my interpretation of the law. And I said, well, sir, you know what? Your interpretation of the law is wrong. And I've been a lawyer longer than you've been alive. And I say that it's wrong. And so this precipitated this to make it absolutely clear. So it's for the protection. It's for the protection of our students. It's for the protection of Nevada residents. And I think that as an instructor, this is what you emphasize as well.
Most definitely. It's really important to know that there are websites out there pushing that if you take their class online, that then you can go and submit an application into the CCW detail here in Las Vegas, which is not true. You have to take an in-person CCW course with a Nevada qualified instructor. Also understanding that that CCW class for the state of Nevada can only be taken here in the state of Nevada. You can't take a Nevada CCW class online or in any other state whatsoever. Unlike some other CCW classes like Utah, Florida, and Arizona, I can teach those classes here in the state of Nevada, but not Nevada in some other state.
Very good. Thank you. May we have the next slide, please? We frequently get questions from either in consultation or at gun shows or whatever, that perhaps a person is prohibited. A person got a drug felony when he was 21 years old. He's now in his 40s. And there are some online sites which say that you can carry or you can have a black powder type rifle or an antique rifle. So I want to make something very, very clear. It has been the law of the state, and then we'll ask your input in just a moment. It has been the law of the state of Nevada in a published decision of the Nevada Supreme Court that regardless of the action of the weapon, black powder, cartridge ammo, ball, and gunpowder, if you are a prohibited person, you cannot have, possess, or be around that weapon. And even though there are some states like Wyoming and Texas which allow you as a felon to have a black powder rifle, and the ATF regulations, now here's something important. The ATF regulations state that if the weapon was manufactured prior to 1896 and does not accept cartridge ammunition, it is not a firearm. But that's different because if you read the rest of that statute, subject to local law and regulations, which Nevada specifically prohibits. And it took all the way up to, in Nevada's history, there hadn't been a decision on that until the Fobel decision, which was decided and filed on January 26, 2012, 10 years ago. So Nevada had been a state for over about 130 years before this came about. So tell us in your experience what you see when students or people come to you and they want to own a black powder rifle, or they come to you in your training and they ask you about these questions. What do you do from the perspective of the trained instructor?
So the biggest thing is they need to know that words have meaning, and what they mean in the law is the definition of a firearm is really what we're looking at. If they're not allowed to be in possession of a firearm, a firearm definition is any projectile that is propelled by air, spring, or gas. Gas is actually what's created by the black powder when it's ignited, and it propels that ball out of the black powder pistol or rifle. So that's still considered a firearm. So that is a firearm, and they can't be in possession of firearms if they have a felony. And once a felon, always a felon, unless you plea it down to something else. But yeah, they definitely can't come and take a class or, bring their antiquated firearm if they think that's what they can have. Again, there are other weapons that they're not even allowed to have with a felon.
And so, do they get irate with you, or do they mostly understanding, or both?
I'm a very compassionate person. I let them know, hey, go take a martial arts class, learn some empty hand defense, improvised weapons. I mean, they're allowed to have a water bottle. They can use something else. Put together a better defense plan for that person who maybe made a serious mistake back in the day, and now their Second Amendment is gone. They can't own firearms or even other weapons too in some cases. So it's just really helping them to move forward from not being able to own firearms or other weapons like knives even.
And thank you for pointing that out, because just at the end of June, the U.S. Supreme Court issued now what I consider to be the most significant firearms gun-related case in the history of the United States, and that's the New York Pistol Association. But we have the decision with us now, but I want to make something very clear. The New York Pistol Association case, 6-3 majority in the U.S. Supreme Court, does not allow everybody to have firearms. It says specifically that the New York regulation, which taxes the person's ability to get a firearm and carry it, is unconstitutional because it violates the 14th Amendment, not the Second Amendment. And I've been telling people that. They say, well, it's a Second Amendment decision. But no, if you read the last paragraph of the Bruin decision, it'll say that New York's proper cause requirement violates the 14th Amendment in that it prevents law-abiding citizens with ordinary self-defense needs from exercising their right to keep and bear arms. We therefore reverse the judgment of the Court of Appeals and remand this case for further proceedings consistent with this opinion. So, and then we have Justice Alito, who says, we don't decide here who can get the firearms and under what regulations. We only decide a very narrow issue. So if any of you have any questions on that, you're welcome to call me. And we hope that this particular program has been somewhat informative, and it's been very intense. And again, here is Ms. Mordaunt's contact information at Homeland Protection. And please take down her phone number and give her a call and check it out. And she's very personable and responds to many phone calls during the day because of her expertise.
You can also text me at that number as well.
Oh, good.
We have male and female instructors at HPP training. We teach all over the Valley and in other states as well. So if you have a class somewhere else, you build it, we'll come.
All right, and thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with other shows in the very near future.